The year was 2001. No, I'm not talking about the Space Odyssey. I'm talking about the epic stop motion animation that me and my friend Andre made. And here is a never before seen look at how we made it.
Hello.
So I've known my friend Andre for a long time, since like 1996, and we used to make tons of videos together. We do animations and stop motion animation and claymation and stuff, and we started playing around with this idea of using our bodies as the characters in the stop motion animation instead of just doing clay figures.
For some reason, my parents had a lot of fans, so we made a movie about it.
I think a lot of you might not have even been born yet when we made this thing. The technology was a lot different back then. We shot this entire thing on tape, and it had this feature on it that you could just take one frame at a time, and there was really no editing at all. It was like you would just do one shot, followed by the next shot, followed by the next shot. And if we watched it back and decided it didn't look great, we would literally rewind the tape and record over it and redo it. And then when we got to the end, it was done. Everything was on camera as you see now in the final product. So stop motion animation, if you don't know, it's where you move the figures little by little and take one frame at a time. So it's a bunch of pictures, move it a little bit, move it a little bit, and then when you play it back, it gives the illusion of motion. So since we're using our bodies for this, Andre's in the video, he was just in charge of moving himself little by little, which is a little faster than moving clay figures, honestly. So he would just keep track of his motion and where he needed to move and just do it little by little, and I would hit the next frame, the next frame, the next frame.
And he would, remind me like how I was sitting and which way I was facing, that kind of stuff.
And a lot of times I was holding the camera by hand even to get these camera moves that weren't so static. So he'd be keeping track of his body and his motion, and I'd be keeping track of where the camera was moving, taking frame after frame after frame.
A lot of shots looked like I was just kind of sitting there and putting along the ground, but really I actually had to get up and move some of the fans and then get back down.
Another thing that's crazy for a stop motion animation like this is that we didn't really plan much ahead. Usually you'd have it completely mapped out from start to finish, so you're not wasting your time because it is so time consuming. But I did have a couple specific shots in mind, so I didn't really have full storyboards for it, but I did do a couple thumbnail sketches of like the thermometer and just a couple shots I wanted to make sure we remembered to get. But other than that, I was pretty much making it up as we went along. We did a handful of stop motion tests beforehand just to see what the fans would look like and how they would move on camera, and Andre kind of thought through what his walk cycle would be like.
He's practicing walking.
I knew I wanted a shot where it looked like he was sweating, and to do that in stop motion was kind of a challenge. So Andre had the idea to come up with this mixture of cornstarch and water, and we put it in the microwave so it thickened, and it was really disgusting.
This is our sweat. We've been saving it for 4 months.
But it was just thick enough that I could put a little bit on his forehead and then animate it, move it frame by frame so it looked like it was dripping further and further. So we did a test of that to make sure it worked before we went to actually shooting outside and doing this whole thing.
We're gonna do a test of sweating.
So we shot this video a couple hours a day for about 2 weeks. So the first half kind of takes place inside Andre's house, which is easy enough, but then we went outside, and so we had to have all these fans outside. We looked crazy. Neighbors don't know what you're doing, especially if you're doing stop motion animation, because we're not like moving and running around. Andre's just holding still, so we kept having to explain to people what we were doing, and we even had like a group of kids kind of hanging out and watching us, wondering what we were doing. There's a shot where I climbed way up on the roof to get a really wide shot, and so Andre is just down there by himself, so people walking by and driving by have no idea what's happening. They just see a guy like motionless with all these electrical fans.
Yeah, there was multiple moments where I'd be lying in the street with a bunch of fans surrounding me.
But we knew what we were doing. We knew. We said one day there will be a thing called YouTube and we will upload this to the YouTube. There's a shot where he goes over the top of my car and it was burning hot, so he had to hold still in each of the positions on the hot metal as he went over little by little. Sometimes getting the camera in the right position means stacking it up on some books or like attaching it to something or taping it to something. There's one shot where we were really, really low to the ground, but I needed to raise it up a little bit, so I ended up using a deck of cards, and for each frame that we wanted the camera to move up, I was adding more cards to the deck to get the camera to kind of just tilt up just a little bit. There's a cool shot that's like a point of view of the electrical plug, so I just taped it to the front of the camera so it would stay in place. And then as Andre's moving himself along the street little by little, I'm doing this cool camera movement that kind of comes in and swoops under the chair. To have the ice cream melt at the beginning was a pretty funny trick. Andre's really holding ice cream, and then I took a blow dryer and was just melting the ice cream and then taking frames as it was melting.
I don't know if you've ever had your hand burning and freezing at the same time.
Because he had to hold it there for probably 15 or 20 minutes while I was melting the ice cream and getting the frames of it melting little by little. But then at the end, the perfect looking ice cream is a cutout that I got off the side of an ice cream cone box because it was the perfect little plop of ice cream that wouldn't melt. that we could actually shoot with. So that's just a little cutout on there at the end. It was raining the day that we wanted to shoot this, and so I took a work light from Home Depot and just stuck it up on a pole and had it shining in the window. So it looked like the sun was shining in and it was hot, even though it was raining that day. So I've done a lot of music production over the years, but in 2001, it was when I was first dabbling in that, and I had a Tascam Porta-Studio, which is a 4-track tape recorder. You could record 4 different tracks on it, and that was it. So I hooked that up to my little keyboard so I could record a bunch of layers of the music. So this is the first time I ever did a musical score to something. It wasn't on the computer, so there was no way to really connect it. So I literally would play the finished video back on my VCR, which is on a VHS tape, start it at the right moment, and then start the playback and the recording of the music at the same time. So I always had to synchronize them perfectly so I could just manually watch what was happening while I was doing the score. And I did it like totally manually just by eyeballing it and lining it up. Alright, so I hope you liked it and hope it inspired you to make your own stop motion animations. I need to get back into making those. They're really fun. I'm going through all my archives of old videos and trying to find some that I think you guys would really like, so I'll be uploading more DustFilms Vault videos soon. And I've got some new videos planned, so be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you soon.